What's happening, everyone? Welcome back to the channel. I am DL here with another movie review. It is the month of the Hunger Games. We are talking about all four Hunger Games films leading up to the newest prequel film, The Ballad of Songbirds and Snakes, which is coming out this weekend. I've already talked about the first three Hunger Games films, the original, Catching Fire, and Mockingjay Part 1. If you guys haven't seen my reviews for those, I'll put a link in the description below so you guys can watch them. But we have one more film to talk about. We're going to talk about the fourth film of the Hunger Games franchise, Mockingjay Part 2. Let's get into it. So, if you guys have seen my reviews for the previous three Hunger Games films, you guys will know I enjoyed the first film. I thought it was a pretty solid start to the franchise, but I didn't think it was anything mind blowing. It wasn't really until Catching Fire where I actually started to really get invested in this franchise. I loved Catching Fire. I thought it was absolutely great. And then Mockingjay Part 1, I know a lot of people don't really care for that one. I personally enjoyed it. I thought it was good. As far as part ones in the film franchise, I think this is one of the better attempts at them splitting a final book into two parts. I thought it did a decent job setting up all the pieces, and I thought it was a really decent character study. I appreciate that that film took its time to just slow things down and build up the anticipation for what they're going to do for this final film. So obviously, I was excited to see Mockingjay Part 2 because of what they were setting up to this point with all three of those films. And at this point, I was expecting Mockingjay to be pretty much, hit the ground running, and it's going to be almost like a balls out action picture, pretty much, because all that's left is for all the districts to revolt against the capital. They're going to break into the capital and just revolt, and there's going to be this huge battle and confrontation, and President Snow and Katniss is going to have their final confrontation, and then we're going to see closure with all the other characters we've been following, like with Peeta and Gale and Finnick and everybody. So I was really interested to see how everything was going to play out. This was all set up to what possibly could be, one of the best finales I've seen for a young adult novel film since Deathly Hallows Part 2. At least that's what I was hoping was going to happen. I once again saw this opening weekend because ever since Catching Fire, it got me more interested to see this. So, I didn't wait. I once again saw this opening weekend with my Hunger Games friends. And after watching this, I gotta say, I was a bit let down with this one. I wasn't a huge fan of this film. I'm sorry to say. I was very disappointed. I didn't think this movie was awful. There is still some pretty good stuff going on in this film. I think the performances are still really good. I think there's some really cool action set pieces here and there. But as far as like a finale, as far as like everything that they were setting up until this point, it just didn't feel very fulfilling to me. It just there was a lot of ideas and a lot of concepts that felt very undercooked. And as far as like closure with certain characters, some of that stuff felt half baked as well. And it's just, I don't know, maybe it was just my expectations were too high as far as what I was expecting to see in this, but it's just like, from what they were setting up from the previous three films, I just don't understand what happened here. It's just, it felt very underwhelming. It's like I expected a lot more than what they gave us. It's just, I don't know. Overall, I'm in the middle on this film. Like, I didn't think it was awful, but yeah, I definitely didn't think it was that great. I guess I'll start with the positives. Like I said, I do think the performances are still really good. I think Katniss Everdeen is, still, I think she's a great character, and it hasn't changed here. Even though there were some questionable things about her development in this film, I still think that Jennifer Lawrence does a great performance as Katniss. All throughout these films, I'm fully invested in her. And she's definitely carrying this franchise on her back. A lot of stuff I feel wouldn't work as well if it wasn't for Jennifer Lawrence's performance, and so I'm glad that it has. She's still really good in this. I did once again still like Josh Hutcherson as Peeta. For the most part, I thought he was good, but once again, there was some questionable choices with his character, which I'll get into later. But as far as his performance, I thought it was good. Liam Hemsworth's Gale once again was fine. Um, Sam Claflin as Finnick was really good, and all the other new characters they introduced in part one, like President Coin, played by Julianne Moore. She was uh performance was fine. Once again, there was questionable choices with her. We'll get into all that stuff in a minute. Mahershala Ali, I thought was good as always, and Philip Seymour Hoffman, I thought he was really good. This is the final film he did before he passed away, and honestly, he didn't have that much of a presence in this. Like, not as much as the previous two films, but still pretty good. Jeffrey Wright as BT's there. He was good. Like, yeah, the performance was really good. I thought all around everyone brought in their A game, even though the material for the film wasn't as great this time around. Um, some people had the criticized with Mockingjay Part One. There wasn't a lot of action going on. I feel like there's more action set pieces in this film. This movie felt a bit more exciting, which I appreciated moments. And even though we're not focused on the Hunger Games anymore, they did still find a way to have some Hunger Games traps. As far as like when they're doing their infiltration of the Capitol, because President Snow had like other like game designers create all these elaborate traps in the city when Katniss and the team are infiltrating the city. And I thought some of those traps were really really cool. Like there was this whole sequence where there was like a tsunami of like oil, and then there was also these like wired traps that that catch them when they get struck by the waves. So that was pretty cool. There was like these faceless monsters. They look like a mixture of like they look like white xenomorphs kind of, but like those monster things. There was like a swarm of them when they were underground in the sewer. That was a cool sequence. It's probably the best action sequence of the entire movie. Is that fight with all those like xenomorph looking monsters. I thought that was pretty cool. There were some other traps like there was like these buzzsaw spikes coming out of the ground when they're running away from the danger, and then there was like these lamps that incinerated people if they were under them. So there was some pretty cool set pieces there. So I'm glad that they found a way to still have some Hunger Games trap influences in this film. So that stuff was cool. Once again, just building the animosity between Snow and Cadmus. That's still really good in here. President Snow, I just really like, I really like his character. I just like how sinister he is. And, in this film, like he's top notch as he is in the previous films, so, and actually seeing that confrontation between Katniss and Snow in the film, like, I thought that was really cool, it was for the most part, it was kind of satisfying. I wouldn't say it was 100% satisfying, but at least I was glad that we actually got that face to face between them. So I thought that was good. And that's about it. I think that's the extent of my positives because before I get into it, I probably am going to give away some minor plot points here and there. So if you haven't seen Mockingjay Part 2 and you don't want to know anything about it, I would suggest go watch it. All four movies are on Peacock, by the way. But yeah, it's like if I'm probably going to get into minor spoilers, so from this point you have been warned. I don't know. Just so my main issue with this is that as far as seeing all the districts working together against the Capitol, you don't see that much of it. There's a couple of scenes where you see them revolt and like overthrow the Capitol, but a lot of events are happening off screen. Don't question what happens off screen. I always say that, but like all the stuff that the districts are doing, like they do it off screen, and then they have other characters explain what they did, and it's like we see that happen like more than once in this film, and I'm like, why are we not seeing all the stuff that the districts are doing? Why why is this stuff happening off screen? Why are we not seeing what the districts are doing to capitalize on Panem? Like this is the stuff that we've been building up to see, and we're not actually going to see it. That's very strange. It's like we're focusing too much on the whole B plot with Katniss and Gale and Mahershala Ali's character and the camera crew and PETA doing that stuff, which I'm not saying that stuff wasn't as interesting, and it is integral to the plot because they're helping Katniss get to Snow, but it's like we should be seeing all the factors going on. They should be intercutting with the stuff with Katniss and then the stuff with the districts, because both of those stuff are equally as important. So I thought that was really underwhelming. And then President Coin, what is okay? So now they're putting in this whole twist that like President Coin has her own agenda throughout the film. So it's like she does want to free the district, but she also wants to take control of Panem at the same time. She wants to, take it over from Snow's place. And it's like, okay, well, that could be an interesting concept, but like they barely focused on that. It felt like that just came out of nowhere. She didn't really imply that she wanted to take over Panem after they get rid of Snow, and now what is she another villain? Is she another antagonist in here? She kind of is, but she kind of isn't. And it's just like I'm surprised that everyone is like okay with what's going on with Coin. Like obviously she has some some shady stuff going on with her choices and nobody's confronting her about it. I don't understand that. There's a little bit of pushback, but like not enough to be like, okay, what you're doing is wrong. Like we should not be doing this. Like she even hinted that she wanted to bring back the Hunger Games, and have like the children of the people from Panem, participate in there for revenge. I'm like, that should be a red flag to everyone. Like, regardless if they had, if the people from the rebellion had to suffer through the Hunger Games, I wouldn't think that that's something that they would want on their worst enemies. Like, send their innocent children to the Hunger Games. That really felt mean spirited to me. I just didn't like that at all. And the whole President Coin thing, trying to take over, that's like getting in the way of the stuff between Katniss and Snow. It's like they're just throwing a wrench in the plot for no reason. And it's like, I don't know, it just really took away from the stuff that was really important. Going back to PETA, we know that in the previous films that he was tortured by, the Capitol, and they were forcing him to say stuff against the rebellion that he didn't want to say, and they psychologically was messing with his head, and to the point where it's like that PETA would physically attack Katniss out of nowhere when he didn't want to. Okay, so it's clear that he was kind of messed up in the head, but I don't know, it feels like that type of stuff is like that stuff starts to not be clear in this film, because now it seems like he's more conscious of what he's thinking and what he's feeling, even though he does still have some outbursts here and there, but for the most part he understands that he's not all the way sane in the head. And now they're putting in this whole thing of like, now he's questioning how much Katniss cares about him. And I don't know why he would be questioning that, because up until this point, when they were both in the Hunger Games, 2 Hunger Games, like Katniss went out of her way to protect PETA from danger. Like, she's practically the reason why he's still alive. And all those times that they bonded and like they start to grow a relationship, like why would PETA question that? Like I get that he got tortured, but like I wouldn't see any reason why PETA would think that Candace doesn't care about him. That just kind of felt out of character a little bit, and then that we just are boggled down with that for the majority of the film. And once again, I did want to give him the benefit of the doubt of when they sent him on the mission with Katniss and the rest of the team. Obviously, that was a President Coin decision, and once again, throwing a wrench into the conflict that doesn't need to be. And once again, I know PETA is not a warrior. He's not, he's not a killer. He's just a baker. He's a gardener. So I'm not expecting him to, be able to defend himself as well as the others. But it's just like, it almost feels like PETA was dead weight in this. It felt like he was a liability to everyone else, and it just didn't seem fair to Katniss and the rest of the team that they had to deal with Peeta's PTSD when they're dealing with such a serious situation. They're trying to, infiltrate the Capitol and take down Snow, and it's like they shouldn't be having to deal with something like Peeta. Peeta should have stayed, where he was, but it is what it is. So I just didn't like how that was played out. And then Gale, once again, Gale is like almost siding with Coin with some of her decisions, and it's like, why would he do that? And it's like there's this other theme that they were trying to introduce in here about the casualties of war, because Katniss once again does not want to kill innocent people if she doesn't have to. But then, of course, being that this is a war, this is a ongoing battle between the rebellion, the districts, and Panem, there are going to be casualties there. So it's like Katniss is trying her best to, to take down Snow without having to kill anyone else if necessary. And then Gale is all about, he's willing to kill anybody, whatever, by any means necessary. And it's just like, that that didn't strike me of how Gale is as a character. You do feel like he's a bit more of a hard ass than Peeta is, but it's like I felt like Gale was a more compassionate character than this. Throughout this franchise, I did think Gale was just a fine character. He was anybody that blew me away, but just like, I don't know, I thought he was a much more empathetic character than this, and once again, that just felt very mean spirited as well. Another thing, it's the final like climax. I don't even want to call it a climax, but it's just like it was one of the most underwhelming final confrontations I have ever seen in a film. This whole time we were setting up that all the people of the districts were going to work together, and they were going to storm the Capitol, and they were going to take down Snow. We were going to see this whole elaborate battle with all the districts working together, and with all the the main characters we've been following, with Katniss, all of them fighting together against Snow and his army, something like that. Like, I think that would have been a much more satisfying finale than what they gave us. And pretty much all they did was, Coin off screen took over Panem and took down Snow. And then, they have this final execution for Snow. And then Katniss shoots an arrow, kills somebody, and that's it. That is the end. The war is over. So we get no battle with the districts. We don't see all the ins and outs of how they took over the Capitol so quickly. And once again, like, Snow's demise feels undercooked. So it's just like, and I forgot to even mention that there's this whole plot line with Snow, getting sick, that apparently is pointless now, because that doesn't really play a factor at all in the film, because they were going to kill him anyway. So why did they even put in that whole plot line of him dying and getting sick? Like, that didn't impact anything in the plot. I did not understand why they did that. Now, I'm sure there's going to be some book fans that are, hearing what I'm saying, and they're saying, well, a lot of this stuff, that's how it played out in the books. Coin taking over the Capitol, how she did, and how Snow had his final demise, and how the districts don't have this huge elaborate battle, but that's exactly how it played out in the books. So it was accurate. Okay, so if that's the case, if the events that play out in this movie, if this is, for the most part, accurate to the Mockingjay book, this is no pun intended, this is a textbook example of why filmmakers and studios need to adapt books to better translate them for a theatrical experience. Because how it's playing out in the film, it's not satisfying. It's not. It's very underwhelming. It's like, this is not the big finale that these movies were alluding that it was supposed to be. It's like, it's just so underwhelming, because like they were hyping up that these districts were important, and it's just like, you don't see you don't see all of this play out properly. A lot of this stuff is just happening off screen and there's exposition. That's something that would work in a book. Like people talking about what's happening and just describing what's going on. This is a movie. We have to see most of the stuff go on. You can't just tell us what's going on, you know? Also, there's this one little plot point that happens in the film. It's a little thing, and it's probably in the grand scheme of things, it doesn't seem as serious as the other stuff that wasn't as fulfilling. But there's this one thing that happens in the movie that I think goes against what they were setting up in the first place, going back all the way to the first film. I think it just pretty much makes everything that they were fighting for up until this point, it made it pointless. When they killed Prim abruptly, just out of nowhere, Katniss's sister, they killed her in this film. And when they did that, I thought to myself, wow. So everything that Katniss did up until this point, the whole reason that this rebellion started was because Katniss put herself in Prim's place in the first Hunger Games to save her life. That is the reason why everything played out the way it did. This is why we're here. It's because Katniss wanted to save her sister. And now, in the final film, Prim just abruptly gets killed. There was no build-up to that whatsoever. She just dies abruptly. And so, what was the point of all this? Because Katniss, the whole time, she didn't even want to be a part of this rebellion. She didn't even want to be the beacon of hope. She didn't want to be the Mockingjay. But the only reason she did so was to protect the people that she loved. It was her mother, her sister, Gale, and Peeta. And the fact that she failed to rescue her sister, who was the catalyst of all this happening, I just felt that was disrespectful to the entire franchise. It almost made everything pointless to me. Yeah, they took over the Capitol. Yeah, they killed Snow at the end. Okay, sure, but it's the principle of the thing, I just found that really scummy and just, once again, mean-spirited, bleak, hollow, that they just ended up killing Prim in the first place. And, there's not any ramifications from that. I mean, yeah, Katniss has her moment to mourn for her. But as far as, just the impact of her dead, it's just, it doesn't feel impactful to the final confrontation of the film. So I don't know. This movie really did rub me the wrong way with some of its choices. Overall, once again, I didn't think this movie was terrible. It does have some really good moments. There's some cool set pieces here and there. The characters, for the most part, even though the writing for this film was questionable, I don't have a problem with any of the characters in this film. I think the performances, for the most part, are really good. I think the characters are still very interesting. So it's enough for me to still, be invested in what's going on. But as far as like a finale to the entire franchise, it was underwhelming. There was so much more they could have done, and they just decided not to. This movie felt lazy. So I don't know, man. I really wanted this to be better, and it affects how I feel about this Hunger Games franchise in general, how they ended off with this final movie. So it's just like, and the Ballad of Songbirds and Snakes is coming out, and even if that movie ends up being great, just finding out where the franchise ends up going, I don't know. It's just that's one of the reasons why Hunger Games hasn't always been one of my favorite young adult novel franchises, because of that. It saddens me to say that, because I was on board ever since Catching Fire, and I even enjoyed the first Hunger Games. I thought they had a good thing going, but just, I don't know, it just was very lackluster. So I am going to give the Hunger Games Mockingjay Part 2, I'm going to give it a C. It's an average film at best. Then that's the best I can give it. But that's what I thought about Mockingjay Part 2. What did you guys think about it? Did you guys love it? Did you guys hate it? Did you guys think it was okay? Do you think this was a good adaptation from the book? Did you think this translated well for the theatrical experience? Um, did you like that this was split into two parts? Did it end up working well for you, or did it not? Comment your thoughts down below and let me know. So we have talked about all the Hunger Games films, so the only one we are waiting to talk about is The Ballad of Songbirds and Snakes. I will have that review up for you very soon, so tune in for that when it comes out. But if you guys enjoyed this, please don't forget to leave a thumbs up and subscribe to the channel. And don't forget to hit the bell if you want to be notified on future videos I'll be doing. But that's all I have for you Hunger Games fans, and I will see you guys next time. Talk to you guys later, and may the odds forever be in your favor.